Hello, and welcome to episode 38 of Hello Nintendo, where everything is Animal Crossing, and we now have Civilization 6 Tom Nook Edition. My name is Alec, aka The Scottish Lion, and joining me as usual are Michael, aka Awada Fan, and Sam, aka Catch Up the Duck. How are you doing today?
Good. Thank you for having us again.
Yeah, doing well.
So we have a lot of information to cover, so let's get right down to what have we been playing. Sam, what have you been playing?
I'm still playing Final Fantasy XII, which I would have shut up about it, but they confirmed Final Fantasy XII is being ported to the Switch, which makes it relevant again, so I will gush about it. It's a really good game. I'm 160 hours in, and if I wasn't trying to 100% it, then I definitely would have been done by now. But there's so much content. It's such a really good value for money. The quality of life changes are really good compared to the PS2 version. So it's not just a port of a 10-year-old game we're getting. We're getting a properly remastered version, and I didn't realize how bad the original graphics have aged. I just assumed that the HD version looked the same, but no, it looks a lot better than the PS2 version. I strongly recommend to all our listeners, when it comes to Switch, it's a great game, which I think will work really well for the Switch. I think the portability of the Switch will lend itself to the type of gameplay really well. You can dip and dive into that RPG, unlike other RPGs, and just go on a quick hunt rather than focus on the story for a bit. I strongly recommend it to all our listeners.
Yes, I'm definitely really excited. I have a lot to say on the Final Fantasy series coming to the Switch, but I'm going to save that for when we talk about that part of the Direct. Michael, what have you been playing?
I've been playing this indie game called Paranormal Activity. It's an old-school first-person shooter action with a roguelite twist. And so what it is it's randomly generated levels and areas and enemies. There's a certain level of consistency, but you go from room to room attacking these enemies, which can range from smaller enemies to full-on boss fights. It's very similar to Wolfenstein 3D in terms of the layout. So these rooms are just one floor, and you're just running through. But the graphics are interesting. It's really kind of like Minecraft meets Wolfenstein, maybe. But I got it on sale, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm always looking for anything that imitates Wolfenstein or Doom, and so Paranormal Activity scratches that itch a bit. It's worth checking out if that's your thing in particular. I think it's a good game if you need just a smaller adventure.
At this point, I just hope that you have some new indie game I've never heard of to review each week, because I always look forward to hearing what you are playing. It's always different. It's fun.
Yeah, I try to stay busy. I don't know. My attention span recently has been terrible for long-form games, so all these small indie games on the Switch have been really interesting.
So I have been playing, I beat Another World in Banjo-Kazooie, but we'll save that for later because I finally followed up on my promise to play the WarioWare Gold demo. The review of it is, I love the demo. The music is great, it's funky, and it's very appropriate for the setting. I love Wario's commentary and how he makes fun of you during the game. It's a lot more humorous than I was expecting. It's very lighthearted. I would recommend this. I would actually rate it as a must-own game if the 3DS is your main console, if you don't have a Switch, if you're not a big fan of the long-form games. This is definitely a must-own game. It's not something that I'm gonna get, but that's my impression of it. If I was on a plane a lot, this is a type of game that I would play. So, how I did in the game, I scored a 7 on my very first try in the mashing minigame. I got a 12 on the second try, and this is going to be brutally out of context for anybody who hasn't played the demo. So go play the demo. It takes about 45 minutes at most. And then the twist, which is definitely my favorite minigames. I don't know why, probably because it really interacts with moving, and I stand up when I play video games sometimes, and I found myself standing up during this, and then I scored a 12 on the touch and 17 on the ultra. So it's very intuitive, and you definitely get the grasp of it as you go, but it also challenges you progressively. The best mechanical part of the game is how each minigame progresses, so you learn, but it never gets easier. It always challenges to push you further. So I'd be excited to see what other minigames are in there. And if you're a 3DS, if that's your favorite console, I'd recommend this game. Definitely pick it up. It's going to be well worth your money.
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't purchased WarioWare Gold, but the previous entries in the WarioWare series are must-owns for their respective platforms. I doubt this is any different.
So moving onwards, we're going to get right into the Direct. We did have, just a short note, we did say that our next episode was going to be another Zelda episode. Obviously, because of the Direct, we're going to have to delay that again. So how about you send us some Zelda questions and some topics that you would like to hear us discuss. Moving into the Direct, we started out with Luigi's Mansion 3. We have some new purple ghosts. I think I am colorblind, so I'm not sure, but they looked different. This looks a lot like the original Luigi's Mansion, which is also releasing on the 3DS on October 12th. It looks like there's going to be more interaction, and I would expect there to be more interaction with the Joy-Con mobility. So, what was your reaction to this announcement? Because this is something that people have been begging for a long. I don't want to say begging, but something that's been requested for a long time, and I'm actually surprised to see it come to light. Michael, let's start with you.
Well, I was very excited, to be honest. It made me very happy because it's been very good for Luigi's Mansion these last few years. You can play Luigi's Mansion 1 and 2 now on the 3DS, and then now you can play 3 when it comes out on the Switch. And I just think that's fantastic. It was a good surprise, especially considering that Luigi's Mansion 1 was re-released on the 3DS, and we weren't necessarily expecting 3 for maybe another few years, I would say. Usually when a game comes out in a series, they don't come out in quick succession like this, even if it's a remake. Usually remakes are kind of filler, or ports are kind of filler for a few years. So this was a very nice surprise. I played the original. I never played 2, and this makes me want to go and play 2 before, so that I can have a sense of progression. But this is very exciting, I think.
I've never beat the original. I actually am really tempted to pick up the original when it releases this year. I should wait, but I put in a good amount of time, and I remember the original, my review of it was that it felt very much like a GameCube game. It felt like it epitomized the GameCube era. So I'm hoping that this game kind of epitomizes the Switch era.
Yeah, I think that that's a good assessment. If I recall correctly, it may have been a launch title for the GameCube, or if not, it was certainly early on. And
yeah, it was a launch title.
Yeah, so that was my first game on the GameCube then that I was playing, and I had so much fun. The only thing was that I was very perfectionistic about it, and there was sort of a ranking system with all the bosses you would face. I don't remember the exact specifics, but it was something like on a scale of 1 to 100 how well you did. And so I had to get a 100% on every one of those, and unfortunately, the final boss at the time was very difficult for me, so at the very end, I think you get a grade, and I got something like a B plus if it was on a traditional letter scale. So I was really bummed out about that. So that makes me want to play the 3DS re-release and try and get my A plus or whatever the top grade is.
Sam, did you ever play the original?
Yeah, I don't really have strong memories of it, to be honest. I know that I enjoyed it, but I didn't keep it. I sold that one after I was done with it. I think it was fun, and I don't think I'll be picking up the remakes now that Luigi. I was tempted to get Luigi's Mansion for 3DS, but now that 3's coming out, I think like that sort of gameplay gimmick, and I say gimmick in a nice way, not in a condescending way, but that sort of gameplay gimmick, I don't think I need 2 games of in a short amount of time. I'll just look forward to the third one.
Yeah, I almost want to get Luigi's Mansion just because I don't want my 3DS to die. I still want it to last, which is kind of fitting that a Ghost game might be the last game I get for my 3DS. Mm-hmm. That's sad, but we'll save that for another podcast because the 3DS is not yet dead. We are getting 2 new ports. We have Epic Yarn coming, which features new mini-games for King Dedede, Kirby, and his other Yarn friends to partake in. There is the asterisk to this port, though, that this will be a new 3DS or a new 2DS game only. We are also getting Mario and Luigi's Inside Story with the new Bowser Jr. mode. That launches on January 11th, 2019. Epic Yarn is one of my least favorite games of all time.
Wow, really?
I don't know if that's... Yes.
Is it just not for you, or do you think it's a bad game?
It's not Kirby enough to me. I played this with... I played through it with my sister when I was... I don't even remember when it launched, but I remember finding it very whelming.
Yeah.
And too easy, and it didn't, because of the yarn mechanic, it completely took away the floating mechanics and the kind of how Kirby interacts with the world.
Yeah.
It took that away from the game, and it changed it a little bit too much for my liking. So I'm assuming by that you were a fan of Epic Yarn?
No, I never played much of that one. I played Woolly Worlds, and I thought that was such a vast improvement on Epic Yarn's formula, what it introduced. Kirby is already an easy game, and Epic Yarn is even easier. Yoshi's Woolly World at least had difficult to find collectibles, and very occasional difficult challenges, platforming-wise, even if they were in bonus worlds or hidden away as optional things to do rather than things you need to do to beat the game. So Epic Yarn it is boring. It's not for our age bracket. I watched a Let's Play of it, and it was really charming and really fun to watch somebody else enjoying it. But me personally, the actual mechanics were just a bit dull for me. I won't be picking up this port, but I'm glad it exists, and it'll get another breath of life for those who missed it on the Wii.
Yeah, there's kind of a trend in many recent Nintendo games, and I mean, I would consider Kirby's Epic Yarn to be among more recent titles as well, even though I think its initial release was many years ago now. But you have a lot of really easy platformers, and Yoshi, Kirby, and even Chibi Robo are all kind of doing that kind of game. The mechanics are usually semi-interesting. It's obviously aimed towards the younger age bracket. I think what makes it charming for older gamers is the art style. So it can have that incentive, but yeah, it's not, the purpose of this game is not to be challenged, I don't think. It's to see unique game mechanics that are fun to look at, but if the way you have fun is by being challenged, then maybe it's not the best game.
To be honest, like, not just the gameplay, but the art style itself is not as interesting as Yoshi's Woolly World. That game is really alive, and everybody really does look fluffy and adorable, especially on the HD Wii U version. But Woolly's World looks really good on 3DS. And the art style in Epic Yarn isn't as nice. It's flat, it's 2D. There's less interesting things going on from what I can tell. There's some couple of nice levels, but nothing that really makes the Yarn theme necessary.
Was it the first in the series of Yarn?
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it
was.
was then. So at the time, for its era in 2010 when it came out, maybe it was a lot more interesting, but it aged quickly because Nintendo released themselves a lot of prettier versions of that game in a way. And I mean, you can see unique art styles just in general in gaming all over the place, kind of flourishing since.
Yeah, and there's
since
Unravel
that
as
time.
well on other consoles, which does that all aesthetic and gameplay. So I don't think Epic Yarn really has a place. If that's the sort of thing you want and you haven't played it, get Yoshi and Poochie's Woolly Worlds.
Yeah, I definitely recommend. Just from my memory of Epic Yarn, I definitely recommend looking into Poochie and Yoshi's and Poochie's World. Yeah, that one.
That one, we know what you mean.
So up next, we also had Splatoon 2. Are either of you big Splatoon players? Because Splatoon is not my realm.
Yeah, I've played enough Splatoon. I'm not very good at it, but I'm very enthusiastic about it. So I'm not the type of person who's going into ranked mode and getting S++ or whatever the new ultra ranks are, rank X. I am not that guy at all, but I really enjoy Splatoon, and I was super taken by the first game, which I completed as much as possible. And the second one, I'm actually still working through the single player mode, but I've played plenty of online multiplayer with it, and so it's pretty exciting. What I like about Splatoon 2 is it's just always getting updated, and it feels like they've done enough now, but they're still doing more, so that's pretty cool, to be honest. It's a pretty good purchase, especially if you're like me and you bought it maybe near day one, and you didn't necessarily expect much more beyond weapon and clothes upgrades like they did for the first game. But then they release a whole new download content package, and in addition, new modes, and so now this new recent direct announcement is even better. So I don't know, it just keeps getting better with Splatoon. I feel like if you had to choose one multiplayer game to get on the Switch, I would say it's Splatoon 2. Even above Mario Kart or ARMS, I would definitely recommend, if you could only choose one, Splatoon 2 is kind of the place to be.
Yeah, I would definitely look into Splatoon. I just haven't played it. One of the problems is I have no idea if I'll actually enjoy this game. So, because I know it's a first-person shooter, but it's such a different first-person shooter.
It's not first person. It's third person.
Yeah, it's third person, player versus player. I mean, I have the same feelings as you, because when Splatoon came out, at that point in my life, I hadn't really played a lot of shooting games, first or third person, in a while. And so it was kind of my re-entry into the genre. I had played some Unreal Tournament over the years, on and off, but not even as much as I had back when it was first out in 2000. But yeah, besides that, I didn't really play shooting games. So Splatoon comes out. This is totally not my genre of choice by that point. I was really enthusiastic about it after just buying it because I trusted Nintendo enough to take a risk on their new IP. And it was a decision that I didn't regret. And a person like me who tends towards action-adventure games, that's kind of what I do as much as possible. I didn't expect to like it that much, but it's amazing. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just something that you have to try and see. It's kind of like Animal Crossing in that sense. People don't know if they're really going to like it until they actually play it. So Splatoon 2, I would say, if you ever get the chance to demo it, definitely try it out, because it's something that most people tend to like, I think. So it should be okay, but I do understand the cautiousness, because I was cautious myself.
From my experience, mostly with the first Splatoon on the Wii U, the core gameplay is, by which I mean not with people, but just controlling the Inkling, is so fun in itself. it's like how Mario's. Remember the stories about Mario 64 where they designed Mario to be fun to play with first, and then they started building levels and building the rest of the game after they nailed Mario's movement. And I find playing as the Inklings and just exploring levels and shooting things and dipping into the ink and swimming around and then jumping out and shooting something, that core movement is really, really fun and really interesting. So even if you're put off by the multiplayer aspect and you think, I don't know if I want to play a competitive shooter against other people, I don't think that's my jam, the single player is really good and really imaginative, and it is short, and maybe you're not willing to spend that amount of money on it if it's just for a single player. I guarantee you'll like the single player, and you might end up loving the multiplayer. That's how I found Splatoon 1 on the Wii U.
I think that's a good assessment, because also the gyro controls, like you were saying, that's kind of revolutionary, actually. And whether you're using the Wii U gamepad on the first game or for the second game using even your Joy-Cons or your Wii U Pro controller, I highly recommend for Splatoon 2. That is kind of a unique control scheme, and it changes things a lot, because part of the challenge of playing shooters, any game involving a gun on a console, was controllers are often very imprecise, and you can work your butt off trying to make the C stick perfect and the aims as flawless as possible, but there's just, at a certain point, the only other option was a mouse, and now you have controllers with gyroscopes in them that can be used as a means of controlling, and that is what makes Splatoon 2, I think, especially fun, because it's more accessible now. Now, people who are not as good at shooting games can be better at them just by virtue of having that control scheme available. And in addition, it's a challenge to people who are good at shooting games, because now they get to learn how to be good with this new control mechanic. If nothing else, it's an important step forward for gaming in general, because from here on out, we should be seeing more and more shooting games with gyro controls. I know Destiny 2, for instance, uses it. Doom on the Switch now supports it after an update that came out more recently. So it's slowly creeping into the console market in general, and I think that will make it really cool for gaming in general. It's just, for me, it's a lot more fun simply because of the gyro controls, if nothing else.
Another game that really required you to learn the mechanics of and revolutionize gaming was the Mega Man series. We are also getting Mega Man 11 on October 2nd. This is another game that I have never played, and I should download the demo. It feels kind of like a gaming sin to be on this podcast and having literally never booted up a Mega Man. Have either of you played a Mega Man game? I would hope so.
Yeah, I played Mega Man 1 and 2.
Let me ask this, because Mega Man, I feel like most announcements of Mega Man are now are met with a lot of okay, just a lot of meh. Is that true, or is that just my lack of having ever played a Mega Man?
I don't know. Is the answer. I'm not a massive Mega Man fan. I'm not in the Mega Man fan base. I know people who adore this series and are really excited about Mega Man 11. For me, I enjoyed what I played, and I think I will get the new one. It looks good, it looks fun. I love that they haven't gone back to the 8-bit graphic, but they've gone for an HD retro, but still modern graphic style. But still with quality of life updates. I think we were talking about this before, how a lot of the NES games don't hold up at all. But with just a couple of changes, that they could play really well. Like, if you put a map screen on Metroid, instantly a lot more playable. If you had a Link's Awakening little jingle that would do to tell you that there is something of note on this screen to find in The Legend of Zelda on the NES, suddenly that game is a lot more accessible for a lot of people. Maybe better save systems, things like that. And I think Mega Man is definitely one of those games, So when he played the old ones, trying to switch between the weapons and trying to figure out what one was what, it was a bit of a clunky menu system. It doesn't really work on the NES. So I'd like to see a proper modern update for the series, and I think this is the chance for it.
Yeah, I played Mega Man on the 3DS. There was a collection for that. The one that has the original NES games, maybe the first 10 of them or something. And the reason I bought it was because there were amiibo for it. So I got the gold Mega Man amiibo that's available, I think, in the United States. I don't know if it ended up coming out in Europe or Japan yet. But it did come out in the United States, and so I got it. And to justify that purchase, I thought maybe I should finally become a little bit more cultured in gaming and finally find out what this Mega Man character is all about. So I played through Mega Man 1 a little bit, and by a little bit, I mean the first 2 levels tops, because I'm really, really bad at this game, and this game is really, really hard. So whatever love people have for Mega Man, it's probably based on their raw ability to get through it. Maybe they're just older gamers who have seen more stuff out there, have had more experience. Because I was born in the late 80s, so by the time I was able to game, the N64 had come out. And so I didn't really play Mega Man, and I don't know, it's just kind of I would say in today's era, if you're a person who's trying to get introduced to the series, it's not necessarily the best idea to try and go the chronological route, because the first game is very, very difficult. I enjoyed it for what it is, and I think all the mechanics introduced in it are super unique and really interesting for the NES era. You can play as many different characters, you have many different guns. That's kind of advanced for the NES era, so it's obvious why this game got so popular. So now we have Mega Man 11 coming out, we have a demo available for it that everyone's really excited about. This is the first demo, by the way, where I've seen rumors about it coming out in advance. You had people on Twitter saying, oh, I was analyzing the data being uploaded to the eShop. I don't know what exactly they mean, but somehow they have the ability to do that. And they said, oh, the Mega Man 11 store page is getting updated. That means there's going to be a demo. And everyone was so excited for just this demo. So obviously it's enough of a phenomenon to catch people's attention even for a demo. So I take people's word for it. This is definitely a good game. I'm not very good at it. Maybe I'll be okay at Mega Man 11.
Mega Man's hard. Well, I don't know if it's unfair hard. I would have to play a more modern one to decide. But definitely old school Mega Man is hard.
So moving right along in the series of the Direct, the next announcement was Mario Tennis Aces. We're getting Birdo, Shy Guy, Koopa Paratroopa, and Petey Piranha in an update which launches tomorrow, September 19th. Sam, have you been playing more of Mario Tennis Aces since you got it for your birthday?
No, I really want to. This game, this Final Fantasy XII has sucked up everything in my entire life. I will play it. I will get back to it. I will. You've played WarioWare, so now I have to play Mario Tennis Aces. Birdo makes me excited, though. I love Birdo. And Peter Piranha is cute, too.
So the next 2 announcements, there's a Capcom beat 'em up game, and I forgot to write down the name of this game, but it's basically all the Capcom beat 'em up series in one title. Then we had Super Mario Bros. Deluxe U, the Getting Even More Deluxe Edition. Nabbit and Toad are here, and then we have Peachette, and this game feels forced. It felt inevitable, but it still felt forced. Am I missing something?
I mean, it's weird, right? This Peachette thing. It made sense that a 2D Mario was going to come. It makes sense for them to when the rest of the series is sold phenomenally, and then Super Mario Deluxe U sold to 10 Wii U owners, and of course it was just going to get a port to Switch, and from what I gather it's the best one. People were just sick of it at the time, so even Wii U owners skipped on skipped on this one, and they might pick it up now, especially with the Luigi version bundled in as well. It's not a surprise. Maybe just the timing for the announcement, but it's coming out in January. It's a strange one, isn't it? It feels like a game that maybe could have come out this year, but then it'd be encroaching on Odyssey. But now it's competing with Yoshi's Crafted Worlds. I guess it's nice that there's so many games on the Switch that I don't need this on my radar. And I don't need to think about Peachette. And I don't need to think about Toadette becoming Peachette. And I don't like that, and I don't want it, and that's okay, because I don't need to play the game.
My most underrated announcement in this Direct is Katamari is rolling onto the Switch in winter 2018. In a short 3 months, we are going to be able to play Katamari on the Switch. This is going to be awesome. I don't even know where this came from. I was not expecting it. For those of you who have not played Katamari, it is the epitome of casual gaming. It is gaming just to play a ridiculously fun game. It's artistic, it's outlandish, and this is the original version that is heralded usually as the best version. And Sam, am I correct in... You've played this, correct?
I played We Love Katamari because the first one didn't come to Europe. But We Love Katamari was really good. I think it was just more Katamari Damacy. It wasn't the start of the downhill trend of the games. It was equally good from what I understand. I am excited to play the original, if that's what this is. I thought this was like another compilation best of Katamari, but if this is the first one, that's more exciting. I just saw Katamari and I screamed, so I didn't pay too much attention to the details.
Oh yeah, it's definitely the original being remastered, and it's going to be on the Switch and Windows so far. I mean, I imagine it'll come to Xbox One and PlayStation, or actually Xbox had beautiful Katamari on the 360, so they should have this one as well on the one. But no, I did not play much Katamari except for the iOS releases. There's like Touch My Katamari, Amazing Katamari Damacy, I think was another one. So I played those, but I didn't own really a PlayStation 2 for a very long time anyways, and did not end up playing the original 2 for that reason. So this is a great way to visit that portion of my backlog. I really love this new era we're in where they're re-releasing all these games I always wanted to play on other systems that I didn't own, and they're putting them on the Switch, which is super convenient and awesome. This is another must-play game for me on my Switch list that I'm going to just have to get. I wonder if I might even buy it right away, to be honest, because like you said, it's kind of more casual play in nature. It's not something that requires a big commitment. So maybe that'll be a good purchase for me, given my current era of inattention.
Yeah, Katamari's another must-play from this Direct. Really, really strong Direct, actually. Now I look at it more deeply. Katamari is an absolute must-play if you haven't played it before.
So the next part of the Direct was the Switch Online, and a lot of this information we've already been over, and it was just more of a solidifying of what is going to be coming actually later this evening on the day we are recording. I do have to note, though, that the animation that they used to display the features was absolutely adorable, and I hope they continue to do more of their own animations like this. The different features we are getting are online play, the classic NES library, the save data. Now, the controversy around this is it's not all games. We have the smartphone app to communicate. We have special offers in the future, and then the exclusive NES controller that only members of the Switch Online can buy. Right now, there is so much hyperbole and controversy surrounding this that I feel like no one actually has a good opinion of it anymore, or not a good opinion, but it's kind of hard to have a really objective opinion on this if you are on internet and on Reddit, because there's so much we still don't exactly know, and we won't know until later tonight.
Yeah, the opinions around Nintendo Switch Online have been pretty on the negative side for sure. There appears to be a big backlash, and for a person like myself who's able to just put down the $20 for the year, it doesn't really concern me at all. It seems like a very trivial amount of money. It actually seems well worth it, to be honest, because a lot of the games that are on the NES service, are in the NES streaming service, are games that I would have bought if they released them on the Switch as, say, a virtual console title, and even if they cost $5, I would have bought some of these, at least 4, so that's $20, so for me, this is kind of a deal, to be honest. And the funny thing is the NES games are kind of a bonus. The main purpose of this service is to have access to online play. I feel like this is an all-around win for me because I like NES games. I do understand there are a lot of people who do not. In my opinion, it's something that you need to experience more before you really know your opinion on, and I wonder how many people have really given NES a chance. So maybe this will give them an opportunity to look into it more, especially because with the online support, you can play with your friends now, and that was half of the fun of NES games, especially for people who were old enough to own it right in there in the era, was playing with someone through Super Mario Brothers, for instance. So now you get to do that online. I think that's kind of a major jump forward for Nintendo. I actually never expected them to make an update like this to their old games. So that's really exciting in a way. And I think the special offers, I imagine at the very least there'll be some sort of special access to discounts on games akin to what we get with My Nintendo already. So that should be fine. I think it's always good to get Nintendo games at slight discount at least because usually they don't go on sale. So I don't really have any major complaints about the service myself. So I think I would say I'm on the positive side of things. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to download the NES app or whatever form it will take to play these games.
If you were to tell me that you could pay $20 and get a collection of NES games to play online with friends, I would have bought into that. The online play is more of the bonus for me. And then moving on, just stop me because some of these other announcements are either too vague or games that we have already known are coming. So just stop me if there's something that you'd like to mention. We got another Pokemon trailer. Pokemons have special abilities. They actually showed more of the battle system. We are getting a special bundle. Diablo 3, Super Mario Party, new minigames. All minigames are brand new. That is releasing shortly on October 5th. Game Freak RPG Town Incorporation. The entire story is in one village. This is a 2019 release.
That's cute. I don't have much to say. Yeah, I don't have much to say about it because we haven't seen enough of it yet. But I'm always excited when Game Freak branch out of Pokemon. I don't think they've done anything really killer outside of Pokemon. Drill Dozer was probably the closest game to a great game outside of Pokemon, but still didn't quite make it. Harmonite was a good game, not a great game. I didn't play Tambo, but I don't think it was a game that many people will remember. Was it called Tambo?
Tembo, Tembo, the badass elephant, and that was on PlayStation 4 at least, and
it was
fine. PC,
was the consensus I gathered from it. It was an okay game. Nothing.
Yes, yeah, it was overall liked. I don't think anyone considered it groundbreaking in any way, but for what it is, it looks like it pretty much gets the job done. I would probably really enjoy it. I have it waiting for me.
It looks like it's probably going to be an eShop exclusive if it's one village. And that's fine. I can't wait to find out more.
What I've been interested in regards to Town is how a lot of people think it's a kind of a tech demo for upcoming Pokemon games. If that's the case, and you take a look at the trailer again with that in mind, you notice that it's looking pretty advanced, to be honest, like a very developed game that's kind of beyond what Pokemon Let's Go looks like or what Sun Moon or Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon have looked like. And so if that's the case, and the speculation is true that Game Freak often needs a little bit of experience developing for the platform before they throw the Pokemon games at that platform. Hopefully Town ends up being somewhat of a prediction of what we're going to see with the next generation of Pokemon. So in that sense, even if Town itself ends up being a little less substantial, at least you can assume Game Freak is kind of training with it. And I think that's a good thing.
Moving forward, if you like building towns, you can play City Skylines, which released on the day of the Direct. We got some new information surrounding Daemon X Machina. We got a new trailer for Yoshi's Crafted World, which still not too much information, but the idea is that you focus on crafting and recrafting the entire island to explore by shifting the stage. This is a game I'm looking forward to seeing more of, because I think it's going to revolutionize the tabletop games from Asmodee are coming to the Switch. Civilization 6, Starlink's Battle for Atlas, World Ends With You, Xenoblade Golden Country, Warframe Just Dance, FIFA 19, Team Sonic Racing Winter, NBA 2K19 or its little brother, the Playgrounds 2 version, and LEGO DC Supervillains. To the big topic at hand, the last three big topics, Final Fantasy is coming to the Switch. We are getting 12, 10, 10-2, 9, and 7. Also, World of Final Fantasy Maxima, a chibi game, is coming November 6th. Chocobo's Dungeon with co-op is coming in the winter. Crystal Chronicles with co-op is coming in 2019. And Final Fantasy 15 Pocket Edition is now available. Please go and play Final Fantasy 9 if you've never had.
No, play Final Fantasy 12.
One request.
Play Final Fantasy 12 if you haven't.
Yeah, I think we are both excited because we both love those games, and they're coming to the Switch, and I'm so excited that other people are going to be able to experience these games.
Yes.
Final Fantasy IX will be a Game Club game one day. And we'll wrinkle in Final Fantasy 12 there as well, and that's probably going to cap out our RPG limit.
I'm glad 7 is coming. I didn't need the remake, but it suddenly Cloud sits more comfortably with me in Super Smash Bros. Now that 7 is on a Nintendo console. It feels so long overdue, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like, just for the legacy really it has, whether or not the game holds up today, whether it's worth playing. I tried it before, I couldn't get into it. I bet if I push myself, I'd probably like it, but it's probably not going to happen. Now I'm Final Fantasied out for the next 10 years. But 7's legacy is so big for gaming in general, and I'm so glad to see it on a Nintendo console.
Yeah, I've never played 7 because the legacy is so big. I felt like I've played it through other people because it's written and talked about so much.
Yeah. I played Crystal Chronicles on GameCube a little bit. My neighbour down the road had it, but it wasn't a good 2-player game on GameCube. Well, there's a weird mechanic, and I hope that they've changed this in the new version, where to stop people from separating too much. I'm gonna explain this wrong, so not lore wise, but I hope I explain it well to you. So basically, there's like a mist that surrounds the levels, which hurts your characters. So you carry a crystal through these levels, I guess, to get to the checkpoint which clears the Land of Mist, if I recall correctly. But it meant that one player had to carry the crystal. So if you were playing with just 2 players, basically one person had fun while the other person carried the crystal. And there was a bit more to it than that, but it wasn't fun for us to play when we were kids. And so if the crystal just hovered nearby you, and then the two players could play together, that would fix it and make the game fun. I don't know if they would need to rebalance it for that, if they did that. But also the game was just difficult to play in general because you needed 4 people and you needed all the Game Boy Advance link cables, and those 4 people also needed to be up for playing a semi-serious JRPG-esque game. Where you needed to think a bit more, and it's a big time commitment because it's a story and you want to get to the end. So I'm excited to see how it works on Switch, and I'd possibly play that one with you guys if you were up for it, if it looks good and if it gets good reviews.
You know, I'm glad you explained that, because I've never looked into Crystal Chronicles, because my impression of it has always been that it was the ugly little brother of the series that nobody liked. So I've never looked into it. But I definitely need to look into it, and you did well explaining that. One of the things though that might not be too well explainable is Isabelle is the new Smash fighter. And if you listen to the podcast from 2 episodes ago, I believe, we joked about this like it was something that would be silly if it happened. And, well, it happened, and I'm still in disbelief.
Did we joke about it? I can't remember.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if it made it into the final edit, but yes, we did joke about it when we discussed the August Smash Direct,
I think we were maybe comparing Isabelle to some of the other weird fighters that were announced. I do think Isabelle is a perfectly logical and makes sense as a reveal. People are taking this like, this is the first underwhelming announcement, but I think this is a massive announcement for some, for a lot of people, especially in Japan, where Isabelle is a huge, huge character. I'm surprised that people are surprised about this announcement.
Yeah, when we were talking about it before, I think what we were struggling with was what moves would she have, because she's not a very dynamic character, at least as she appears in New Leaf. But that doesn't mean that the Sakurai or his team are unable to imagine ways to make Isabelle make sense, and it looks like they made it work. So I'm excited. This is good. Animal Crossing needed more reps on the roster anyways, especially because there are many series that are overrepresented and a lot of series that aren't represented as well, and Animal Crossing having another is fantastic, especially because the next Animal Crossing, of course, is coming out, so it kind of helps people kind of have something to do that's Animal Crossing related before the next one comes out. And since the next game already felt kind of like a long ways off as it is now, it's nice that we have something that isn't Amiibo Festival. so I think it's all around a serious win, and I don't think we have much to complain about. Of course, people who have a problem with it can, of course, choose from all the other characters anyway, so I don't think anyone's losing anything here, so hopefully it won't be a big deal.
I would argue we are all winning from Isabelle being in Smash, because we're gonna see a completely peaceful character become, like, creatively violent. And she just sits there smiling at you all the time. It's very passive-aggressive. And I appreciate that. So then the final announcement in the Direct was Animal Crossing 2019. There wasn't much shown, but the trailer made Tom Nook look more like an antagonist. And I can't be the only one that thinks that. I'm glad to know that it's coming in 2019, and I love Animal Crossing. I'll be picking this up. Can't wait to see more of it. But we just don't have a whole lot to say other than Tom Nook. Jeez.
Yeah, that was so weird. The way it came off, especially after the Isabelle trailer preceding it, was kind of grim, somewhat depressing. It looked like Tom Nook was down on his luck.
Yeah,
almost.
like Tom Nook's been there from day one, and they chose Isabelle over Tom Nook.
Yeah, I thought it was like serious. I thought what it was going to be was that he was lamenting not being picked, and it ended up being just. I don't know if Nintendo intended for him to come off this way, but it just came off as he's depressed. He's
always looked a bit depressed in a dark design, hasn't he? It's because his mouth is hidden, maybe, or is just his big tired eyes.
Yeah, that doesn't help, and then yeah, also the tired eyes, just having the shadows under the eyes, which is just characteristic of a tanuki or a raccoon. I forget which he is. So maybe that doesn't help, but when he was like, "Oh, I'll be getting things ready for when you guys are done with Smash," so it kind of like what he was saying came off as positive. But if you looked at the atmosphere, like his body language, the lighting in the room, like his light not working very well. It just came off. I want to know what Nintendo was going for, because it was so unexpected. Animal Crossing is usually super obviously positive, and this wasn't in-your-face positivity, so I don't know what they were going for. But of course I'm going to be excited about Animal Crossing 2019, because I love Animal Crossing. I've been playing this game since day one. I remember anticipating it when they were showing it off in Nintendo Power magazine. I wrote Nintendo Power a letter explaining my enthusiasm, and I've been playing these games just all throughout the series. So this is going to be amazing, and I cannot wait.
Real quick, favorite villager before we all exit?
Are you kidding? Are you seriously asking me this question?
Wait, well, I know. I don't know if the people listening have made the connection between Ketchup the Duck and Animal Crossing. I hope they have, but in case they haven't.
Ketchup was for a long time a Japan e-card exclusive villager. So you needed the e-reader attachment, and you needed the cards that you randomly got out of your pack, and you might have had a small chance of getting Ketchup the Duck in your villager, even though she's clearly the best one. She's got a head which looks like a tomato, and she loves pizza, and she's adorable. She's the best character in Animal Crossing, and we finally got her in the Western world with the New Leaf Welcome Home amiibo. So again, a bit of a struggle to get her, but she's one of the default characters in Pocket Camp, so I reckon she's definitely going to make the cut for Animal Crossing Switch base game. I think she's going to be a default villager in everybody's home, because they recognise how good a character she is.
Hopefully they pull a Super Smash Brothers and say everyone's here, because it's always made no sense to me that any of these characters go away. I have always been like, Nintendo, you can do this. You can put everyone's character in there.
I thought you were suggesting that
so I hope that's what they go
Ketchup
for.
should come to Smash.
Oh, well, actually, I mean, while we're at it, I have no problem with that. I think that would be awesome. That's sort of the next step, I think. You could go for non-playable characters, but to have some sort of villager in there would be kind of like having a Pokemon, and so I think that would be cool if we got some sort of character, and I think Ketchup's probably in the top 10 or something of possible picks if they were to ever go that direction. Well, my main character is Vladimir, and that was the subject of the letter that I wrote to Nintendo Power. And Vladimir is this pink grumpy bear who wore a tiger shirt in the first game, and in its subsequent games they changed his clothing. But he was really... The funny thing about the grumpy characters in the original Animal Crossing was they were really sincerely mean, by today's standards especially. And it, like, almost downright emotionally abusive at times, the things they would say to you. It was, like, harsh. And so, I don't know why, but the fact that Vladimir, this pink bear, was so grumpy all the time was really funny to me. So he's been my favorite ever since. In the more recent games, they've made him really gentle. Like the grumpy bear, all the grumpy characters have essentially become, what would you call them? Gym rat type guys. They need to go and lift all the time, and they want to compete and show you how many push-ups they can do. So they've taken on like a different personality, but still the nostalgia for the old Vladimir holds me. So Vladimir's definitely my fave.
I'm gonna have to go with my favorite this is gonna be cheating, but Brewster. It might have to do something with my love for coffee and being from Seattle and spending a lot of time in coffee shops, but I love Brewster. He was my favorite part of City Folk, which was the first Animal Crossing I've played. But yeah, he's my favorite. I even have a coffee cup with a Brewster on it, and he's holding a cup that says Coo Man because he's a pigeon, so coo instead of cool. I hope that pun comes across as funny and explainable in audio version. With that, maybe we'll send you off to your own cup of coffee with Brewster. But as always, thank you for listening to Hello Nintendo. Next time you can join us for hopefully a Zelda podcast. Please remember to send in your questions to hear what you want to discuss about Zelda. Maybe also send in questions about Samus Returns, Metroid, and Samus in general, because this month's game club is Metroid Samus Returns. As always, thank you very much for listening to Hello Nintendo.